Welcome to Echoes Untold, where history's most haunting whispers find a voice. Every tragedy in aviation history carries a lesson, one that echoes through time, a warning etched in metal and memory. Today, we revisit Airblue Flight 202, a flight that started as an ordinary domestic journey but ended in catastrophe. On July 28, 2010, 146 passengers and 6 crew members boarded an Airbus A321 in Karachi, expecting to land in Islamabad within a couple of hours. But they would never make it. Instead, their aircraft veered off course, heading straight toward the Margalla Hills, where disaster awaited. The crash would become Pakistan's worst air disaster at the time, leaving behind painful questions. What went wrong? Could this tragedy have been avoided? Let's step into that fateful morning and uncover the final moments of Airblue Flight 202, a disaster that should never have happened. The sun had barely risen over Karachi's Jinnah International Airport when passengers began boarding Airblue Flight 202. The aircraft, an Airbus A321-231, was a relatively new addition to the fleet, just 6 years old. It was considered a safe, modern, and reliable plane, equipped with the latest navigation and automation systems. The flight was scheduled to cover a distance of 1,146 kilometers, 712 miles, from Karachi to Islamabad, an estimated journey of 2 hours. The captain in command was 46-year-old Pervez Iqbal Chowdhury, a former Pakistan Air Force pilot with 35 years of aviation experience. His first officer, 27-year-old First Officer Ahmed Majid, was much younger, with just 1,837 hours of total flight experience. At 7:41 a.m. Pakistan Standard Time, PKT, Airblue Flight 202 lifted off from Karachi's runway, heading northward. The skies were cloudy, and monsoon rains were in full swing, but the flight itself was routine, at least for the first hour. As the aircraft approached Islamabad, air traffic controllers at Benazir Bhutto International Airport were monitoring its arrival. But soon, things started to take a troubling turn. Islamabad's weather that morning was far from ideal. A thick cloud cover had settled over the city, bringing poor visibility and steady rain. Flight 202 was instructed to perform an ILS, Instrument Landing System, approach to runway 12, the standard procedure during low visibility conditions. At 9:34 a.m., Flight 202 contacted Islamabad Air Traffic Control, ATC, and was cleared to descend. The ATC instructed the pilots to follow the normal approach path. However, instead of staying on course, the aircraft veered to the right. Something was wrong. Instead of heading directly toward the airport, Flight 202 made an unusual series of rightward turns, placing the aircraft dangerously close to the Margalla Hills, a mountain range that looms on the northern outskirts of Islamabad. For reasons still debated today, the captain ignored multiple automated warnings and continued flying toward the hills. The aircraft's Enhanced Ground Proximity Warning System, EGPWS, blared. Terrain, pull up, but the captain took no immediate corrective action. Instead of climbing to safety, the aircraft remained on its fatal trajectory. At 9:40 a.m., just 2 minutes before impact, the first officer attempted to intervene. Black box recordings revealed moments of desperation and confusion in the cockpit. The first officer suggested correcting the flight path, but the captain dismissed him. Despite warnings, the plane continued descending, moving dangerously closer to the rugged terrain below. Then, at 9:41 a.m., disaster struck. At a speed of 282 knots, 522 km per hour or 324 miles per hour, Airblue Flight 202 slammed into the Margalla Hills, disintegrating upon impact. A massive explosion engulfed the wreckage, sending debris and flames cascading down the mountainside. The aircraft was completely destroyed. All 152 people on board, passengers and crew, were killed instantly. News of the crash shocked Pakistan and the world. Rescue teams, including the Pakistan Army, Islamabad police, and local volunteers rushed to the crash site. But the terrain was steep, covered in dense forest, and the impact had scattered debris across a vast area. The wreckage was unrecognizable. Among the remains, rescuers found passport fragments, burned luggage, and pieces of fuselage fused with the earth. Families of passengers waited anxiously at Islamabad airport, hoping for survivors. But as the day unfolded, the grim reality set in: no one had made it out alive. The crash of Flight 202 became Pakistan's deadliest air disaster at the time. The tragedy left 152 families shattered, and a nation demanding answers. The Pakistan Civil Aviation Authority, PCAA, and the Airbus Accident Investigation Team launched a formal investigation into the crash. Their findings pointed to severe pilot error and poor cockpit discipline. Key issues included the captain's confusing decisions. Captain Pervez Iqbal Chowdhury ignored multiple warnings, including the EGPWS terrain alert. He seemed disoriented and failed to follow standard approach procedures. Black box data revealed he did not listen to his first officer's suggestions. First officer's inexperience and lack of assertiveness. At just 27 years old, First Officer Ahmed Majid was reluctant to challenge the captain's decisions. The cockpit recordings suggest he tried to intervene, but his concerns were dismissed. Bad weather and reduced visibility, heavy cloud cover and rain contributed to the poor situational awareness in the cockpit. The captain may have experienced spatial disorientation, causing him to misjudge the aircraft's position. The final report concluded that the crash was entirely preventable. If the captain had simply followed the correct approach, the 152 lives lost could have been saved. The Airblue Flight 202 tragedy is a painful reminder of how small mistakes can have catastrophic consequences. It underscored the importance of cockpit discipline, proper training, and adherence to safety protocols. Aviation learned from this disaster, but for the families who lost loved ones that day, the scars remain. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Your support helps us continue bringing untold stories of history's most haunting events. Because this is Echoes Untold, where history whispers, and we listen. Fact-checked sources: Pakistan Civil Aviation Authority, PCAA, Accident Report, Airbus Official Investigation Findings, Flight Data Recorder, Black Box, Analysis, Eyewitness Accounts and ATC Transcripts, News Reports, BBC, CNN, Dawn News.